before the transition. Brett, we are still waiting, and I know it's a story that just never ends, and hopefully one day it will with the Pac-12. Let me ask you this. This is just somewhat hypothetical, and I'm not trying to stir it up, but I'm curious. Right now it appears as if what they're waiting on is some sort of legitimate deal that whatever percentage is Apple Plus and the other percentage is linear. Do you ever see a scenario when the Big Ten would ever again look at Oregon? Not again. Would they look at Oregon and Washington if somebody from the Pac-12 was to leave for the Big 12?
First, kudos for, I don't want to stir it up, but I appreciate that line of questioning.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to stir it up, but no, look, this is what I've said for several months. Probably the last time that I talked to you guys, and I keep hearing this. This is if, but this is a big if. But if Colorado or Arizona, who, as of we talk right now at 4 p.m. Central Time, they appear the most likely candidates to lead the Pac-12 for the Big 12. Mm-hmm. Does that mean they're going to do it? Absolutely not. Could they do it? Absolutely. If they do that, again, that's a big if. If they do that, I've been told by people that I trust that at that point, the Big Ten could take a harder look at Oregon and Washington, because at that point, Oregon and Washington would not that they're not desperate now, but they would be even more desperate at that point to get out of the league. They could get Oregon and Washington for even a smaller share until they gradually ramp them up to a full share. And again, the only reason the Big Ten would do it is they have to be, financially it has to make sense as far as the TV market. I'm told that the Big Ten and Fox do not want to have blood on their hands from being, they're the reason that the Pac-12 blew up. So in a way, they're kind of sitting back to see what happens with Colorado and or Arizona. If they go to the Big 12 and that opens the floodgate, then I think you would see Oregon and Washington come in. Now, would it be in 2024? I don't know if it could be done that quickly. I do know, I reported this last August or December, it all runs together, that they had had in-person meetings with the Big Ten. I've been told they basically have been vetted. They have been cleared. They are ready for takeoff. All the questions have been answered about Oregon and Washington. It's just when and if the Big Ten decides they want to add those schools. Now, what makes that even more complicated is if Colorado and Arizona don't do anything and stay in the Pac-12, and you guys have seen the speculation about any of the teams from the ACC decide to try to climb over the wall and get out of the grant of rights before 2036 and are successful, then the Big Ten certainly would look at a number of ACC schools, and so that could impact Oregon and Washington. So that would be another reason for Oregon and Washington to try to get out as soon as possible. You didn't ask me this, but I'll just bring it up. I know a couple weeks ago I was in Arizona, and Dennis Dodd reported ESPN was no longer part of the Pac-12 dealings. I think The Athletic and Sports Illustrated reported the opposite. What I've been told is that ESPN is going to always talk to the Pac-12. If they can get something for pennies on the dollar, they are going to do it. So technically, they are never out of the running for the Tier 1 rights. If they can get the Tier 1 rights for chump change, they will do it, okay? Realistically, that's probably not going to happen at the price the Pac-12 wants. Now, I was also told that for the same example I gave you with the Big Ten not wanting the Pac-12's blood on their hands, ESPN feels the same way. And so basically when Dennis's report came out, my understanding was is that, ESPN does not want to be viewed as breaking up a conference or blowing up a conference. And so that's, I think, why you saw conflicting views on this, is because at the end of the day, ESPN doesn't want to, want it, the perception that they blew up the league. And I want to be very clear. They're not responsible for what's going on with Pac-12. So, but they also don't want it to look that way. But it reminds me of, and I was at ESPN when this happened, when the Big East had a monster TV deal offer from ESPN. The Pac-12 had actually just got a monster deal, I believe, with Larry Scott. Boy, the good old days. And this is, I think, 2013, 14, 15, around then. The Big East turned down this monster TV deal at the time because they thought they could get more money based on what the Pac-12 got. Well, guess what? ESPN said, okay, you don't want this deal? Fine. Then you go find something else, because the Big East wanted more money. So the Big East went and they signed a deal with NBC Sports. And because ESPN had the previous rights, ESPN had a right of refusal. That meant that whatever deal that the Big East got, ESPN could match it or they could just let them go. So when the Big East came back to them with this new deal from NBC Sports, it was actually less money that ESPN initially was going to pay them that the Big East turned down. So then when ESPN said, wait, NBC Sports is paying you this much? Then ESPN decided, well, if it's for that small amount of money, then we will retain your rights. Could something similar to that happen with the Pac-12? It's very possible. But, I kind of been all over the map with your question here.
No.
But basically, that's I'm trying to kind of sum everything up with kind of how these reports come out with Pac-12, how the negotiations are going. And one last thing, I know you guys are well aware of John Olerand and Andrew Marchant, the New York Post Sports Business Journal. They did a podcast today, actually came out, and they had a reference to what was going on with the Pac-12 and a lot of the same things I'm hearing. Amazon, is probably not going to be a partner because they just want one game. They're not going to get the top game. I've heard from people that I trust these people very much. I've had people tell me Apple is no longer part of the Pac-12 deal. I've had people tell me Apple definitely is part of the Pac-12 deal. We will not find out. But one thing that jumped out at me, it just kind of simplified things, is Andrew Marchant of the New York Post, who's a sports media reporter. That's his only duty. Is he said the thing about the Pac-12 is they've said a lot of things that have not been true. And I guess he's talking about media that covers the Pac-12, Pac-12 presidents, and all these different things. So until we actually see what the Pac-12 is going to get, and I guess, the latest from the Washington State president is it's still, a couple months off, then we're not going to know what happened. But if Colorado or Arizona decide to make a move before they get the numbers to the Big 12, then all hell breaks loose.
Brett, I'm